soon as Darren gets here, we could start.
Right. Stupid doors. Door.
Where is he? Oh, Darren, there you are. Where have you been?
I've been not here.
Fair enough. Today me and Darren are going to discuss some of our favourite films, aren't we, Darren?
Yes, we are.
I really like pre-1970 cinema. Darren likes post-1970 cinema. Of course, there will be some overlaps.
Yeah.
We're going to be discussing our favourite ones and why.
Mhm.
So, let me start, because I want to.
Yeah, I just have to.
I really like pre-1970 cinema because of the sheer amount of content that was on screen without having to actually show things such as profanity or sexuality or too much gratuitous violence. There is too much of that in today's films.
Right, yeah, I mean, well, to be honest, you know, I mean, I even know as much as I like that stuff, I mean, you need it in context, you know, for its own sake. I would direct 80s action movies far better than, let's say, a rubbish episode of South Park, which uses profanity bans just because.
Just because, although the main reason why they didn't have this stuff in is because they weren't allowed.
Yeah. I mean, you had a bloke, you had a tiny bloke in a suit every day going, why you put that in there, put this in there, put that in there, don't put this in that, don't put that in that. But he's saying, oh, the person kissed for 3.45 seconds, how dare you do that? There's less than 2 metres away from the couple's bed.
Yeah.
A married couple under the union of God who's actually allowed to actually know, and have kids.
Yeah. I mean,
probably can't be in bed together.
But the thing is that it was perfectly acceptable. It was perfectly easy to make a film that was pretty and realistic whilst simultaneously not containing things that were too, offensive.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is for the MPA and the BBFC only had 3 ratings at the time, which was it was universal for everyone. There was mature for like adults, and that was just stuff like Casablanca and whatnot.
Yeah.
And then there was X or H, depending what year it was, for horror movies.
And that was it. Really in the 30s and 40s, there weren't ratings for films.
Especially in the United States.
Especially in the United States. So everything had to be available to watch by children because they wouldn't rate anything differently. It would all be one rating, everything had. So nothing could be too horrible that young people could watch, even horror movies. I mean, so that meant that there would be no violence, there would be no...
There's no murder on a pinball machine in the middle of Dracula.
No people who were evil portrayed as heroes.
Yeah, I mean, well, yeah, so basically, no film protagonists. For example, in the 1935 version of Scarface, the guy's blatantly the bad guy of the film, like in narrative as well as story structure, whereas the 83 remake, he's the main character of the film.
Exactly.
Scarface. In the 1920s, the United States was reeling under the impact of prohibition. The sale of whiskey, wine, and beer was prohibited by law, but there were many willing to break that law.
I mean, at the end of so Big China, Little China.
Big Trouble in Little China.
No, it was a film starring Edward G. Robinson.
Oh, right. Chinatown, is it?
No, that was quite a long. He died at the end of that, and which was the case because he was the bad guy, and bad guys would usually die.
Yeah.
I mean, there was no moral ambiguity of any sort.
No,
really.
not until the early 60s, I think. I mean, Clint Eastwood's westerns are probably one of the first examples of this sort of thing.
Yeah.
Especially in the Western cinema, at least. There were You know, examples like Yojimbo and Seven Samurai, which are more classical anti-heroes as they make artists.
Yeah, of course. One particular film that springs to mind of its content would be Sunset Boulevard, because it's very gritty and it's really good writing, and it's very satirical in a very dramatic and psychological way. But there isn't anything specifically awful or violent that happens in it. It's all psychological. And she's a crazy person. I mean, she murders him at the end. She murders William Holden's character at the end, the Norma Desmond. And even so, there is still some moral ambiguity, which is very unusual, especially at that time. And there was a scene where they were on the bed together, which is very, very racy for 1950.
Yeah, I mean, this is before there was like the Flintstones, which were the first to do on television.
Yeah, and that was only 1 year before the infamous rape scene in A Streetcar Named Desire.
Yeah, with Marlon Brando and whom else?
Vivian Leigh.
Vivian Leigh, that's it.
Yeah. Stella, that one.
Yeah.
Hey, Stella!
Now we'd like to move on to talking about some of our least favourite movies and why. Why don't you start, Darren?
Well, I mean, there's different types of bad films. I mean, there's a very functional bad, like Plan 9 Outer Space, where the guy is out, where the vampires are walking incredibly slowly, or they're just lit in the room wrong, because he switched day to night 12 times in one scene. So now she's walking literally like 2 miles a day.
Of course, there's just the so bad they must have been trying to make it bad, like Plan 9 from Outer Space.
Yeah, or Rotten Tomatoes, or the Cat Killer Tomatoes. Or
Lives are shattered. The nation is in chaos. Death and destruction sweeps the country. Foursquare Productions presents perhaps the funniest film ever made.
Attack of the Killer Tomatoes.
Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. You've never seen a film like it.
For every wolf man, there's a Plan 9 for Outer Space. You know, take a good one, take a bad one.
Yeah.
For every, and especially looking at old to new, you know, for every Invasion of the Body Snatchers, there's a Bride and Chucky.
Yeah. Well, even Invasion of the Body Snatchers, I think that's probably one of the. Obviously, you know, I mean,
For every Gremlins, there's a troll.
Yeah. I think with Invasion of the Body Snatchers, though, apart from like, you know, stuff based on books like Christmas Carol and whatnot, it's probably one of the most remade films. I remember it being remade at least 3 times.
What?
Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Oh yeah.
There was one in the 50s, one in the 70s, one in the early 90s, and then the Invasion starring Daniel Craig in 2007, which is, you know, practically a remake.
I don't think anything could beat the original.
No.
Because it was a time when this mass hysteria, all this kind of thing was very right. Now we don't really suffer from that sort of mass alien hysteria anymore, do we?
And also as well, this sort of, I mean, what it is to be, I mean, I'm looking at it as an outsider basically on 1950s films. Why do a lot of them start like, you know, 30 to 40-year-old men who look like Jimmy Stewart? Like a lot of them.
Because they want to be Jimmy
Like,
Stewart.
I don't know if that's the time when it actually was Jimmy Stewart, but you know what I mean? Like you know, they look
Doesn't
like.
matter if it is him. I mean, Bela Lugosi, right? Look at him, one of the big stars, big stars.
Yeah.
And then he loses it to the point where he's working with Ed Wood.
Yeah, well, it actually came about because he didn't want to play Frankenstein in 1931's Frankenstein. And they got Boris Karloff instead. And then Boris Karloff later went on to make, you know, a lot of Roger Corman films, the film Target, and also voiced How You Grinch Stole Christmas. Which, you know, and also the fact he lived longer as well.
That's one of the great animated TV movies, isn't it, as well?
Yeah.
The Grinch, yeah.
Yeah, and the Lorax as well, which is basically a prediction of the history of Blackpool Football Club. Which is, you know, how basically, you know, they cut down the trees to make their big company, and also the last tree falls, and then it collapses into a big wreck.
Oh, yeah. But you can't really get back that sort of. One thing that doesn't work is when they try and remake something that doesn't work in today's society.
Yeah, I mean, for example, a good remake is when we update, is when you use the original for a jumping off point.
Yeah.
I mean, something like the Scarface remake, right? The 1935 one is based on mob gang, basically it's based on Al Capone in Chicago. The 1983 one is based on Cuban drug smugglers in Miami.
Yeah. So what you would really need to do is you would need to update it to sort of modern drug cartel, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Is what you would need to update it to, with all their networking and stuff like that. You need that.
It's all a bad remake. There's a Psycho where basically it's a shot remake of a 1960 movie in 1998.
Yeah, and there's nothing that makes it, you know, any moderner. You can't take something that's specific to one time and then that's probably why the remake of War of the Worlds wasn't something that really worked, because when War of the Worlds was written in the 1800s, there was a big fear about extraterrestrial activity and like
even in the early 50s there was. I mean, there was.
And when they made the old film,
Yeah.
that had pioneering special effects in it for the early 50s.
Oh yeah, for the 1950s, that's a brilliant movie.
It won an award for special effects, actually, the Academy Award. You can't take something that is specific to that era, because there was a big hysteria then, wasn't there?
I mean, they tried to do it, I guess. I mean,
and all the things, injecting all the things about nuclear war and stuff like that. But now we don't live in a society where we're worried about nuclear war as much as they were in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s.
This could be the beginning of the end for the human race. For what men first thought were meteors or the often ridiculed flying saucers are in reality the flaming vanguard of the invasion from Mars.
Well, that's our opinion of what we think on these various topics, isn't it, Darren?
But what do you think?
Yes. We've went out and we've asked someone their opinion on these subjects.
Hello there. We never met before, have we?
No.
Alright, so what's your opinion on older against newer films? Let's just give a barrier, let's give a barrier, okay? What do you think of films pre-1970 and films post-1970?
I've not seen many films around that era.
What do you think, well, let's do this. What do you think of films in the past 20 years compared to films older than that?
Films, a lot different, obviously, because technology's advanced over the years, like special effects, camera.
Yeah.
And they make look a lot better now, obviously they did back then.
Can you give any examples of the best or worst films you've seen?
Best or worst films I've seen. Let me think. I'd say older films that I've seen, probably the original trilogy Star Wars, like 4, 5 and 6.
Yeah.
They're good. They're obviously good at the time.
Like ones you prefer you wouldn't have seen?
Certain genre, the genres of film that I'm not a fan of, horror. I'm not a fan of horror film genre.
Well, that was very interesting, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
Well, I hope you've enjoyed. I hope you found it interesting.